In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. My brothers and sisters in humanity, welcome to testthemessage.com. My name is Hamza Andreas Zorzis. I want to talk to you about a special individual. And the reason he's special is because we Muslims believe that he was sent by God to the whole of humanity, to you and to me, as a mercy. This man is Muhammad, upon whom be peace. You may have read about him, you may have watched videos, or you may know nothing. But the point of this website is to help articulate the fact that we Muslims believe he was truthful and a messenger of God. Now, how can we assess this? Now, since you've come here, it means that you're a thinking human being. It means that you are analytical. It means that you really want to test the message for yourself. So the claim of this man, Muhammad, upon whom be peace, was that he was a messenger of God. How do we assess this? How do we, as rational human beings that like to think that we use our minds, our brains, our intellect, how can we, as thinking individuals, assess this claim, this assertion that he is a messenger of God? Well, first and foremost, we have the following options. Number one, he was actually lying. He wasn't speaking the truth. He just made a claim, just like many other people make claims, especially when it comes to religion. Number two, he was deluded. He was actually a madman. Or number three, he was both lying and a madman and deluded. Or number four, he was speaking the truth. So let's walk or take a journey through these options and see how a intellectual human being, or a human being that uses their mind to come to some form of conclusion, how can we assess the claim of Muhammad, upon whom be peace? So let's go back to his claim. I am the messenger of God. First option, he was lying. Well, when we look at history, and we look at the mass testimony of history, and we look at Western and Eastern scholarship, and we just look at the narrative at the time of Muhammad, upon whom be peace, we would see that it is impossible he was a liar. Why? Let me explain. Well, think about this. Why does someone lie? I studied psychology at university, and if you look at the psychological profile of liars, they lie because they want some worldly gain. Riches, power, women, money, land, glory, whatever the case may be, they want something. Now, if we look at the life of Muhammad, upon whom be peace, we see that he sacrificed everything just for the simple message of that we should worship one God. That was the reality of Muhammad, upon whom be peace. He was tortured and abused. He went to a town in Saudi Arabia. Now it's called Saudi Arabia. He went to a town in Arabia, and he was stoned by the people that he loved, children. This man was doing everything and sacrificing everything, all his internal and external resources, just for this message. So is this the psychological profile of a liar? We also know he was very brave. In one of the battles where he was defending Muslims and non-Muslims, because under Islamic theology, when we have a state or nation, whoever's inside we have to defend. He was so brave that he was running towards the thousands of arrows when the rest of the army was almost retreating. So does a liar sacrifice his or her life just for his assertion or his kind of perspective of I want glory or I want some kind of worldly gain? No, he can't be a liar. And what's interesting, according to the historical narratives, even his enemies would still call him the trustworthy. So we see that his life, his psychological profile is not in line with what we know a liar is. And that's quite interesting. So let's go to the next option. Well, this is interesting because if we even look at the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, how can we claim he was a liar? For example, he taught us that there is no harming and no reciprocating of harm. He also said that If you put kindness or gentleness or compassion in something, it elevates it. If you take it away, it degrades it. The Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, he also spoke about being merciful and compassionate. If you're not compassionate to creation, then the one in the heavens won't show you compassion. The Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, said that you won't truly believe. You claim to be a believer, but you won't truly believe unless you love for others, the human race, human brotherhood. You won't truly believe unless you love for others what you love for yourself. Also, the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, he taught us to be just, to be equitable. He said, be conscious of injustice and oppression, for it's going to be darkness on the day of judgment. He also taught about women. He said to us that the best of you in faith are those who are best to their wives. So we have a whole narrative. I could sit here and continue and say, look at the amazing teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. But that may not be enough for you. Let's have a little bit more evidence to show why he couldn't be deluded. Well, the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, he had many prophecies as well. For example, he prophesied that the Muslims will fight the Mongols. He said in a prophetic tradition that the day of judgment will not come until we fight an army who have furry boots and flat faces, for example, which is an apt description of the Mongols at that time. We also know that the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, he had a lot of opportunities to actually use certain contexts in history in favor of his message. For example, there was an eclipse one day, and it coincided, coincidentally, with the death of his son. Now, if he was deluded, he could have thought, yeah, that's so true. God made the eclipse happen because my son died. But what did he say? He said the eclipse doesn't happen for no one's death. So he wouldn't even use situations that happen at his time or during his life to support his own delusion. So we know he can't be deluded. So what's the next option? Maybe he was both. Maybe he was a liar and deluded. Well, let's think about this. Can someone be a liar and deluded at the same time? Isn't this a paradox? Isn't this a contradiction? It doesn't make much sense, does it? Well, let me give an example. Can we have a square triangle? Well, a square has 4 sides, a triangle has 3, so can you have a square? It's impossible. Similarly, can you have someone who's deluded and lying, and yet that's the case? No, it's impossible. Because what is a lie? A lie is somebody who makes an assertion, but yet knows that it's not true. A deluded person makes an assertion that's untrue, but believes it to be true. You can't have those things at the same time. It's like having a square triangle. So we come to the last option, which, if you remember, was he was speaking the truth. So you may think, wow, this is quite interesting, because just using our minds, our intellect, we're assessing the assertion of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, which is what? I am the messenger of God. And we know he couldn't have lied. We know he couldn't be deluded. We know he couldn't be both. Therefore, he must have been speaking the truth. Now, you may think, yeah, but this is all based upon your history. The Muslims, they wrote it down themselves. Maybe it's all forged. But that's actually not true, because we have plenty of Western evidence, especially chronicles from the Christians, that indicate the messengership of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. And also, we have to understand that these narratives are not myths. They have been brought down to us via mass testimony. So to reject it would be equivalent of rejecting the Norman invasion of England, or even World War II. I'd like to end on something though, just for you to understand why Muslims love the Prophet Muhammad so much, upon whom be peace. Now, you heard some of his teachings, and we believe the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, was sent down as a mercy to the world, to the universe. This is something the Quran, which is the book of the Muslims, actually says. And this mercy we could see manifested throughout history. And we could see it manifested in the lives of his companions. And we could see it manifested in his own life. For example, when he used to talk about children, about loving children. And he used to say to people, if you love someone, tell them you love them. He used to be just and merciful. He would never ask for his rights, always give people their rights. He was a man who brought tribes together. He was a man who focused on compassion. So this is why when sometimes you see maybe attacks against the Islamic religion or the personality of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace, Muslims sometimes may get angry, or you may see a certain reaction. And I think the reason that happens is because if you attack Muhammad, upon whom be peace, you attack mercy itself. And we live in a time of need, in a time that we all need mercy. So hopefully when you go through this site, you learn more about this personality and we'll be able to engage with one another in a far more profound way. Thank you very much for listening to me. Assalamu alaikum.